Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing K-3 marriage visas. We're discussing the possibility of expeditiously setting an appointment for an interview. And what we're talking about here is, I know a lot of folks are frustrated. The overall process of getting a visa to the United States, it's just dramatically slower than it once was. And it's not even so much the fact that it's slower. In fact, I would actually say overall, in some cases, it's moving along at sort of the same pace overall. But it's kind of the weird, for lack of a better term, unforeseen delays and glitches. That's what we've been noticing. Is I kind of liken it to being almost like a logger, in like Alaska in the old days or something, where you had these guys that would stand along the river, and when a log jam would build up, they'd kind of go in there and poke it with like a rod and kind of unjam the logs, and they'd go further down the river. That's kind of, for lack of a better term, it's kind of felt like dealing with, especially consular processing of U.S. immigration cases, roughly the past 18 months. It's you get an issue, you deal with it, you unjam the logs, you keep them moving down the river. The point of this video is, certainly I do understand people's frustrations. The K-3 process, and I usually do a K-3 video. I kind of tend to pack them together with CR1 and IR1 visas because generally speaking, we're always talking about spouses. The K-3 is a little bit different because for purposes of consular processing, if you manage to get the case through what's called past, if you will, what's called administrative closure, if you're able to get the case through NVC, National Visa Center, to an embassy, it's going to be treated like a K visa, like a K-1 visa. So I would say you might have a better chance of getting an interview sooner because you're not going through the NVC process to get the interview set. That said, the K-1s, we're trying to get interviews, and unfortunately, there's just a major backlog. And for lack of a better term, there seems to be a scarcity of interview appointments on top of everything else. I suspect that this stems from internal administrative policies, probably stemming from the government, specifically the U.S. government's response to COVID-19. So I expect there are staffing and distancing issues, and these are having ramifications for how much caseload they can process and how many interview appointments they're willing to have in a given day due to, again, social distancing concerns. So the thing to take away from this video is, in theory, and I did another video on K-1 interview expediting. You might want to go check that out. It may provide some further insight, even though it's about fiance visas, although in a K category, it kind of all acts the same way. But long story short, very unlikely you're going to see expedite. You got to have a real emergency. And if you don't have a real emergency, don't lie about one and try and get an appointment or something like this based on a fake emergency. Lying to the embassy is a terrible idea, not least from a moral or ethical standpoint, but also from a legal standpoint, because if it's determined that you made a material misrepresentation of fact to an embassy, one can be found inadmissible to the United States. And if that's the case, maybe the only way of dealing with it is via a waiver, if at all, depending on the circumstances of the case. So, we're all just kind of slogging through the slow road to interviews, and I think we're all trying to do the best that we can, including the embassy. Unfortunately, seeing things move any faster based on any kind of special circumstances, I think it's pretty unlikely to see that.